see you all. I am sure that all of you have read the newspapers and are ready and raring to go. Before we start, let me make my regular dose. I request all of you to subscribe to all our social media channels and please try to promote them, invite your friends to join, share the video. So, shall we begin? Yeah, good afternoon everybody, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I sincerely believe that all of you enjoyed today's session in the morning at 8 o'clock by Krishnan sir, and you have got another session at 3 p.m. today. Of course, those sessions are exclusively for our students, and this newspaper analysis is open to all. So, we will continue to give you a lot of live sessions too. Live sessions are more energizing to us too, because we have been teachers for the past many years, communicating directly with students, and though not directly, the live sessions energize us much more than teaching the morbid camera. So, we have a feeling that at the other side you are receiving it with a good clear mind. So, good afternoon everybody, I am going to start. The Hindu News Analysis, November 21, Saturday 2020. This has been the front page of the news. Jaish plot to target democratic exercise in J&K foiled, says the Prime Minister. We have seen the regular winter surge of terrorism in the western part of India. In Kashmir, local body elections are on the anvil, so terrorists are trying to infiltrate to the country. So they know that the winter is on the anvil, and just before the winter, during winter it is not possible to infiltrate. So just before the winter they are trying to enter into J&K provinces and creating troubles to us. So the government is trying to fend off the borders, and Prime Minister in this context says that Jaish-e-Mohammed is trying to, it is an organization, terrorist organization which has roots in Pakistan. They are trying to sabotage the democratic exercises in Kashmir. This is about our Siddiq Kappan, a Kerala journalist who was on the way to Hathras in UP, where a girl was brutally raped and murdered. He was arrested and he is languishing in Indian jails, and journalist associations and many human rights activists say that it was a clear-cut evidence of high-handedness by the police that Siddiq Kappan is arrested for no charge. Now the states are trying to wield more unusual powers rather. One of the examples is the latest decision by the Kerala government to come out with a stricter vigil on, or by tightening, they have come out with an ordinance, they have proposed an ordinance where they have included section 118, an additional section in the Police Act, which would give more powers to the police. If anybody uses social media for undue purposes, they can be jailed for 3 years. On the look of it, the face of it, we would think that such laws are needed, but if you give undue powers to the police, the record may be different, and it would be a real curtailing of opinion making, which is the right of ours in a democratic society. Okay. Bhutan says no Chinese village in its territory. We know that in 2017 in the tri-junction Doklam is a tri-junction of India, China and Bhutan. India and Indian and Chinese armies were face to face. This Doklam has a history. It was during the Chinese War of 1960s that Bhutan allowed Indian soldiers to have a post in Doklam. After that, these countries seem to have just forgotten the place, and India has been using Doklam, but it is officially in Bhutanese territory. So this was some of the reports of in newspapers claimed. And in 2017 Indian army and Chinese army were face to face in Doklam, but fortunately the political leadership both the countries intervened and diffused the situation. Now some of the Indian newspapers reported that, Indian media reported that I'm sorry, in Doklam China is making unauthorized construction, but Bhutanese government refuted the charge that there is no Chinese construction in Bhutan. Digital nation. The true measure of digitalization would be seamless delivery of all citizen services. Some beautiful data are available here. Affordable smartphones and internet access have made India a digital nation with an estimated 750 million connections and a thriving financial technology sector. We know that many years back, before the 1991 financial opening up, financial sector reforms and the subsequent telecom reforms, a telephone was a luxury. Now a telephone is more than a necessity. At that time a telephone was used to just say hello, or it was just a voice communication device. Now telephone is much more than that. Most of you are watching me through your telephone, mobile phone. So it is a medium for voice communication, it is a medium for picture communication, it is a medium for data communication. So telephone is much more than what it was in previous years. In a locality or in a small village there may be maybe one telephone. We require landlines, big infrastructure like telephone exchanges, etc. But now things have changed dramatically, and in fact everybody is a telephone exchange now, having more than one telephone. And I read, and not here but I read somewhere that an average Indian changes his smartphones every 13 months as against more than 2.5 years in United States of America. So a rich American changes his mobile phones every 3 years or 2.5 years, while the poor Indian changes his handset every 13 months. India has always been a strange nation, a nation with a lot of ironies, and we continue to be a nation with a lot of ironies. So digital platforms providing goods and services including online education and telemedicine have grown vigorously during the COVID pandemic. Of course, COVID pandemic has been an eye opener to many sectors, including educational sector, because now no education platform, now no education institution can survive without an online platform, and it is cheaper and it is more effective too. Plenty of benefits it has, but of course it has got its own other sides too. For young children, socialization is not possible through their schools and curriculums. They learn not just academic matters, but they learn how to cooperate, they learn how to socialize. So of course this platform may not have that benefit, but anyway no one can undermine the benefit of digitization of digitalization of educational sector and of course other sectors too. In banks and financial institutions, no big physical ledgers, but everything is the click of a mouse. So that are all benefited by, all these sectors are benefited by the digital revolution, and this is a beautiful article that you should read. You see, there are certain small criticism also. In the ongoing pandemic, Mr. Modi's forecast for enhanced adoption of technology in health and education will have resonance, although this was always a priority. In fact, successive governments failed to grasp the promise of achieving universal health coverage by 2022. So this was a target which was mapped a decade ago, but governments seem to have forgotten the target and they are changing the goalpost. That is an element of criticism which was cited in the article. The next is scorched earth politics. It is all about Donald Trump's efforts to sabotage the election process in United States of America. We know that Joseph Biden has won the American presidency and is waiting for his White House entry on January 20. Typically and as expected, Donald Trump has not conceded his defeat, and he is trying as much as possible for him, as much as possible to stop Joe Biden's entry into the White House. But of course, now things have gone beyond his hands. Even many Republicans and supporting groups of the Republican Party have clearly said that it is high time that Donald Trump accept his defeat. But anyway, he has moved the many local many courts, and he is now moving to the Supreme Court, as the reports say. But we have to wait and see. The article says that the ferment US politics appears unabated weeks after one of the most controversial election campaigns. This campaign was controversial for the divide that it has created in the American society. A big dent has been created in the American society. So Joe Biden has got a job in hand, not just to unite the world, but first of all he has to unite his own people. With outgoing President Donald Trump refusing to concede to his victorious rival, Democratic President-elect Joe Biden. The irony is that this outcome, which is inflicting damage on the fabric of US democratic system, but was all but a foregone conclusion given the impact of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic on mail-in voting. This time, this was one area where Donald Trump severely criticized. He was very much concerned about the growing number of email votes. Because of pandemic, people were reluctant to go out and vote, so many used email voting. So that voting percentage was something that Donald Trump tried to stop from the very beginning, and even after the elections he was saying that these email votes should not be counted, and he moved some of the courts asking to give directions to the election officers not to count such votes. But anyway, all these things are things of the past now. We are going to have a new world leader in the White House. Yes, congratulations Ms. Anjana Falgunan, an ICDN. Best wishes to her for joining the Union Bank of India. She joins the Union Bank of India today, and congratulations to you, Anjana. And another ICDN, Jyoti M. Nair, she also joins the Union Bank today. Congratulations to her. Many of you should be the next in the queue. Work really hard. Two young people, young girls got into the bank, and their rest of the life is financially secured. They get the benefit of having a very secure job. So work hard, your time will come. Congratulations to both of you, Anjana and Jyoti. I am moving on to the next article. I think last time accepting congratulations on behalf of Anjana and Jyoti, let us proceed. So, India's no to RCEP could still be a no. Listen, last week when I discussed, I said that we would get a difference in point of view. At that time on Saturday, I remember we discussed an article in which it was saying that India missed the boat by opting out of RCEP. The article was saying that the multilateralism is failing in international trade, but regionalism is developing. So, India's decision to opt out of RCEP, which is going to be the biggest trade bloc in the world, controlling almost 30% of world GDP. It is going to be a wrong decision. That was what that article said. But now this article is saying just the opposite. It says that the circumstances under which New Delhi had distanced itself from RCEP negotiations have hardly improved. We got to have both the points of view. We got to know. Look, in 2019, RCEP members accounted for 30% of world output and population and 28% of world trade. But more importantly, about 44% of the total trade was intra-RCEP, which is a major incentive to members of this agreement to agree to a deal, for this could contribute to the strengthening of regional value chains. Okay. RCEP in itself is very big. If we get the market access to all these countries, then we will be able to push, but of course we have to make sure that we have to open up our markets too. So sorry, we are concerned about imports from China. That is a major worry. The answer seems to be unambiguously in the negative on two counts. The first is that during the RCEP negotiations, India had raised a number of concerns. Two of which, namely the levels of market access. We are concerned about the levels of market access, meaning how much percent of the Indian markets has to be opened up, and we are scared about the Chinese products which would come to the market and conquer with subsidies provided by the Chinese government. Provisions relating to investment chapter. See, we are very particular about foreign countries' investments in India, especially we have a policy that we would be scrutinizing investment from our neighboring countries. Automatic channels are opened for investment from anywhere else except our neighboring countries, meaning if investment comes from China or Pakistan or any of the neighboring countries, it will require more scrutiny. That is the Indian position. But once we sign this RCEP, it is not just the market which is opened up, meaning trade which is opened up, even the investment scenario has to be opened up, meaning we will not be able to provide any kind of restriction for cross-border investment, for which India is not ready. So this article emphasizes by saying that situations have not changed since 2019 when we decided to move out of or walk away from RCEP. So please read, you got to have both the views. On Saturday we were saying just the opposite, that was the article said, but now it is a different point of view. In fact, for any person who prepares for All India examinations, it is a different point of view which would matter. In a first, government approves a study on status of radicalization. Please read, it is about a study conducted by, see, there is an act called UAPA. UAPA. It is a new avatar of the old TADA, Terrorism and Disruptive Activities Prevention Act. These are all brutal laws. See, if somebody is arrested today, he is only an accused, not a convict. Who can say that he is a convict? Only a court of law can say that he is a convict. A court can convict him for the crime that he does, not the police. Police have no authority to brand anybody as a convict, and the person has got right to free trial. If somebody is arrested today, the Supreme Court has clearly enumerated the procedure of arrest, and that he has got a right. He has got a right to let his to contact his lawyer. He has got the right to contact his people, and he can be in the custody only for police custody only for 24 hours, within which he has to be produced in front of a magistrate, and the magistrate will decide whether the charges are good enough to keep him in judicial custody. And mind you, he is going to be in judicial custody, and if the police want him to question, then the police would require the permission of the magistrate, of the court. These are the procedures. But under TADA, judicial scrutiny of arrest was not required, and it was inconsistent with the fundamentals of democracy, democratic principles. So what happened? When criticism, even international criticism of India's such harsh laws increased, they abandoned TADA and came with a new law called UAPA. It was nothing but old wine in the new bottle. So UAPA continues to be again inconsistent with the principles of democracy. So this article, to survive the criticism or to withstand the criticism, the government has come out with a committee, and this committee, Bureau of Police Research and Development, which is the police think tank, has made a study on radicalization. So please read and have ideas. Exercise Malabar comes to an end. 24th edition of Malabar exercise, of which India, Japan, USA and Australia, for the first time Australia, very important question, this will come for your examination. And another thing, Corpat, look, coordinated patrol, Corpat with Thailand, it's again important, another exercise. So the major naval exercise is Malabar 24, 24th edition, India, Australia, Japan and the US. It was for the first time that Australia joined the exercise. So very important, please read. It concludes. It concluded, the Malabar exercise concluded. Navy also carried out coordinate patrol with Thailand in the Andaman Sea. These are all questions that would regularly come for examination. 30th edition of India Thailand coordinate patrol concluded in the Andaman Sea close to the Strait of Malacca. You see, countries are trying to protect their sea routes, and all these have got impact. These joint exercises have got impact because China is trying to control the South China Sea, which is a major trade route. So these countries require to show their presence felt in the sea. So that's it. Please read. Children account for 1 in 9 cases, UNICEF. Children and adolescents account for 1 in 9 reported COVID-19 infections across 87 countries according to analysis of UNICEF. Look, World Children's Day, very important, November 20. World Children's Day, November 20, again important. And just check what is the theme of this year's World Children's Day. That can even come. I am not going to tell you now because I don't remember. So please check the World's Children's Day theme of this year 2020. World Children's Day is November in 2020 Bangalore. Okay, so these are all important figures. Please take note of those important figures. Yes, another important thing, look, India's Gaganyaan mission 2022, India plans to put an Indian in the orbit, in space by 2020. An Indian will be put in space in 2020 through Gaganyaan mission. That is also important, because the time is closing by, it is already 2020 end, so only 2 more years. So that is going to be a very important event. Almost 1 million inoculated in China. It is speaking about a Chinese vaccine, Sinopharm's vaccine. Almost 1 million, 10 lakh people are given the vaccine, including state employees, internal students and essential workers heading abroad since July. So since July, China has been providing vaccine. Vaccine is going to cover most of the space in the newspapers and media, because that is what the world economy is looking at. A vaccine is essential. India said that India will complete vaccination by 2024. So initially the vaccine may not be available to all. Country has to have a clear cut plan. We got to have a good supply chain, we got to have a good cold chain and we got to set the priority, we got to use technology to ensure that the priority people get vaccination. So please follow vaccination program that the countries are going to undertake, will be very important from the point of view of your examination too. We have to understand how the nation is going to implement this vaccination program. Very important, this is the pick of the day. Debutant Douglas Stewart, a Scottish person, won the Man Booker Prize, the Booker Prize 2020, and immediately note his work, Shaggy Bain. Shaggy Bain is his book that won the Booker Prize 2020, very important. Booker Prize is given for contribution to English literature. So he is a man from Glasgow. Glasgow is the capital of Scotland. He has won. He is presently living in United States of America, living in New York, and he won the Douglas Stewart. He immediately, not just this book, has he got some other works. So write down, check in the Google, check what are his major works. Maybe at the time of the examination, a few months later, they may ask, pick out the book, pick out the work which is not a contribution by Douglas Stewart. Likewise, questions have come many times before. So please take down this book, make sure that you take down the name Douglas Stewart, who won the Nobel Prize, and take down different works of his if he has. Raise private bank promoter cap 26%. Very important question. An internal working group. In fact, I think I gave you these questions in my general awareness quiz. The internal working group's recommendation: private sector's capital must be 26%, increased by 26% in the long run. Presently it is only 15%. So the internal working group has recommended to RBI board that the private sector's promoter stake, meaning their shareholder stake, must be increased to 26% in the next 15 years. Very important, for which the RBI Act of 1949 has to be amended, and further stated that big financial non-banking finance companies, NBFCs, with an asset size of 50,000 crore and above may be converted into full-fledged commercial banks. Big non-banking financial companies. What are these non-banking financial companies? Those financial companies that do not have a full-fledged banking license. Our Kerala state financial enterprises, KSFE, is a classic example for a non-banking finance companies. Anyway, one of the recommendations is that big financial non-banking financial companies with an asset base of 50,000 crore or more, including those owned by a corporate house, may be considered for conversion into banks subject to completion of 10 years of operations. Very important. The internal working group's recommendations will be important from the point of view of examination. Take down. And another recommendation is this, again important: minimum initial capital requirement for licensing of new banks be enhanced from 500 crore to 10,000 crore. Very important for universal banks, meaning big banks, universal banks, and 100 to from 200 to 300, raised to 300 from present 200 crore for small finance banks. ISAF is a small finance bank, for example, ISAF bank. So they do not have full-fledged banking license, they have got restrictions as regards credit exposure to one person or one unit. If my memory is anything to go by, small bank can finance only up to 25 lakhs to one person or one entity. So such restrictions are there for small finance banks, a different category of banks, but for big banks there is no such restriction. For getting a bank license, their minimum capital requirement must be enhanced to 100,000 crore, and for small finance banks increase to 300 crore. These are all very, very, very important things from the perspective of a bank examination. Please take down, very, very important. Okay. SEBI moots easier dilution norms for large IPO, initial public offerings. Listen, I shall briefly tell you about the capital market. The capital market. What is capital market? Capital market is the market wherefrom you can buy capital market instruments. What are the capital market instruments? Shares, bonds and debentures, broadly called as securities. So from the capital market you can buy capital, you can sell capital. What are the capital or capital market instruments that you can buy from the capital market or sell to the in the capital market? Equity shares, bonds and debentures, broadly they are called securities. So the capital market is broadly classified into primary market and the secondary market. Primary market is what is called IPO, the initial public offerings. In some of the textbooks you may read it as follow-up public offerings, FPO, IPO or FPO, but generally in Indian textbooks IPO is more popular, initial public offerings. That is the way by which you can buy shares directly from the company. Those shares that you have bought can be traded in the secondary market, which is called the stock exchanges. Which are the major stock exchange in India? They are the older one BSE or the larger one NSE. So broadly that is the capital market structure. The capital market comprises of the capital market regulator, initial public offerings or the primary market, or the secondary market called stock exchange, and the investor public. These make the so called capital market as such. So this article is all about some of the regulations mooted by SEBI, but of course that is not accepted by the board, it is only in the proposal stage. RBI spurned DBS offer to buy 50% of LVB in 2008. Listen, this is a major complaint by the Lakshmi Vilas Bank people. Lakshmi Vilas Bank is liquidated. There is a moratorium imposed by the Reserve Bank of India on the withdrawals. Only up to 25,000 rupees can be withdrawn by the depositors. Look, all of a sudden RBI parallelly allowed DBS of Singapore to take over Lakshmi Vilas Bank. So what is happening? Customers are happy, they will not lose their money, which is very important. Employees are happy, they will not lose their job, equally important, but the investors would lose their value. So this was the complaint that said a few years back a few years back the same DBS came to buy the bank, Lakshmi Vilas Banks, in 2018 under a different valuation. They were ready to buy the Lakshmi Vilas Bank, but now at that time Reserve Bank of India did not permit the takeover. So now the investors, the present investors will not get almost anything, because the share value plummeted like anything thanks to the moratorium and the very poor financial position. Almost 26% of their assets have become non-performing. So in 2018 they were in a better position. At that time DBS came, but the Reserve Bank of India did not permit DBS to take over. But now the asset value deteriorated, so the stock value came down, so the investors would not get anything. Investors, I do not mean depositors, investors means the owners. So that is the complaint that they have mooted. Please read. Mohammed Siraj's father passed away. Of course, this won't come for your examination and all. A young chap got into the Indian team and he is in Australia now, and just imagine how much your parents love you. Mohammed Siraj's father was an auto rickshaw driver. Mohammed Siraj lost his elder brother many years back, and his father, just 53 years of age, was doing all kinds of jobs to live up to the dreams of to make sure that the dreams of his child blossom. And Mohammed Siraj's father was working very hard to ensure that his practice was not disturbed in any way, and finally he has become a member of the Indian cricket team which is visiting Australia. So condolences to his father. Let these things, stories, be eye opener to us. We have to make sure that we also work very hard and make our parents proud. So I shall come out with 2 newspapers tomorrow. The Sunday as well as Monday will be discussed tomorrow. Make sure that you all read the papers and attend with full fire in your belly. Goodbye. Thank you very much. Make sure that you share our social media links to your friends. Goodbye. We will meet again. Have a very nice day ahead. Thank you all.